Hello and welcome. In this video, you will learn how to get out of fight or flight mode and calm your nervous system. Why is this important? Because the state you operate from has an effect on everything in your life, from your health to your ability to see opportunities and get out of negative patterns of behavior. Ultimately, it shapes your whole perception of reality, as a brain that is operating from fight or flight has a narrow focus, which is primed to look for threats and dangers. To understand how to calm the nervous system according to Joe Dispenza, we first need to look at how the body responds to stress and how habitual emotional states become hardwired into our biology. According to Dispenza, the nervous system is shaped by the experiences and thoughts we repeat daily. When those thoughts are stressful, self-critical, or fear-driven, the body becomes conditioned to remain in a constant state of fight or flight. As mentioned, this state is not just emotional. It has measurable physiological effects that, over time, disrupt the body's ability to maintain health, regulate inflammation, and support cognitive clarity. The autonomic nervous system, which controls unconscious bodily functions, is divided into two branches, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. The sympathetic nervous system mobilizes the body for short-term survival. It elevates heart rate, suppresses digestion, and floods the bloodstream with stress hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol. While these responses are useful in moments of real danger, chronic activation leads to wear and tear on the body and brain. And in our modern world, what arouses the sympathetic nervous system is not saber-toothed tigers or hostile tribes, but bills, deadlines, traffic jams, angry bosses, and conflicts with spouses. The primitive parts of the brain that govern the fight or flight response cannot tell the difference, however. These responses are there to give us the short bursts of energy needed to deal with an acute danger. When no such danger exists, there is no natural outlet for the energy, which means that it instead gets stored in the body. This, if not dealt with properly, leads to a state of more or less constant vigilance, which in turn manifests as symptoms such as nervousness, anxiety, and chronic tension. In contrast, the parasympathetic branch governs rest, repair, and regeneration. This is the state in which healing takes place. When activated, it slows the heart rate, deepens the breath, and activates the body's natural repair systems. To calm our nervous system, Dispenza emphasizes that we must learn how to shift from sympathetic dominance into parasympathetic regulation on purpose. Dispenza explains that this transition is not triggered by external circumstances, but by how we direct our attention and emotion. One of his central ideas is that the body becomes the unconscious mind. This means that, over time, the body begins to react automatically to thoughts and feelings based on past experiences. If someone has repeated the same negative emotional responses for years, their body learns to expect stress and will unconsciously prepare for it. This keeps the nervous system trapped in survival mode. To calm it, one must disrupt these unconscious patterns. The first step is to become aware of how often the mind is focused on past events or anticipated problems. When the brain is constantly recalling painful memories or predicting danger, it reinforces the same neural circuits and emotional signatures. This causes the brain to stay in high beta brainwave states, which are associated with anxiety and stress. A high beta brainwave state is when the brain is very active and alert. It's linked to survival mode, fast thinking, worry, and heightened focus on threats, making it harder to relax or feel calm. In this, it's important to realize two things. First, that we are usually not as aware of how this state plays out as we think. We can be in an agitated high beta state without realizing it, and it's therefore crucial to become more familiar with our inner life by observing ourselves and paying more attention to what is going on in the present moment. See, for example, how your mind is flooded with anxious thoughts that attempt to solve the perceived problem, but in reality get nowhere, because they are narrowly focused on survival. Secondly, realize clearly that it is possible to see situations in more than one way. This is not to say that one should put on rose-colored glasses. Financial troubles and overdue bills, for example, cannot magically turn into something positive. But you can, for example, choose to focus on the fact that from where you stand at the moment, you will not be able to pay the bill in time. Or you can focus on finding solutions that will make the situation less severe, such as calling the company that you owe money and asking for an extension. This may seem trivial, but you will be surprised how often you miss these obvious ways of handling problems if you come at them from an aroused nervous system. This does not make you dumb. It's just a sign that your nervous system is overloaded, which narrows your ability to see the possibilities in front of you. It is very easy to beat ourselves up and assign personal shortcomings to what is really just a sign of our own biology turning against us. This also doesn't make your body or brain bad. They are just not adapted for life in our modern world, and therefore we need to learn how to work more consciously with them. Dispenza's approach uses meditation to bring the brain into slower frequencies such as alpha and theta, where introspection and healing can begin. In these states, the nervous system naturally shifts toward parasympathetic activity. Meditation can be done in many different ways and for different purposes. For Dispenza, it is not a passive activity. It is a deliberate practice of becoming familiar with the self, observing unconscious reactions, and releasing emotional charges. His meditations often begin with an induction phase that relaxes the body and focuses the mind away from external stimuli. This alone starts to lower sympathetic activity. The next step is to move attention away from identity. Broadly speaking, who you think you are, where you live, what you do, and toward the present moment. According to Dispenza, the present moment is the only place where lasting change can occur, because it frees the nervous system from rehearsing past traumas or anticipating future fear. This is a crucial aspect that we need to go a bit deeper into, as the stress is heavily tied to our time-bound conditioned self, which, in its normal state, is tossed around by the laws of cause and effect. We just react automatically to the external stimulus, and thus we fall into the same patterns of thinking and behaving as we always have, which serves to keep us stuck where we are. Once this internal stillness is achieved, however, the body begins to respond differently. Heart rate slows, breath deepens, and inflammatory markers decline. The body is no longer preparing to fight or flee, but instead enters a state where cellular repair, immune function, and hormonal balance can be restored. Brain coherence increases as different regions of the brain begin to synchronize. The heart also becomes more coherent, which produces an effect on the brain via the vagus nerve. This connection plays a critical role in shifting the nervous system from stress to calm. Dispenza's work draws on research from neuroplasticity and psychoneuroimmunology to support the idea that intentional thought, combined with emotion, changes the biology of the nervous system. But he is also clear that the change must be emotional, not just intellectual. Calm is not produced by understanding relaxation, but by feeling it. When a person learns to generate feelings of gratitude, compassion, or inner safety without needing external reasons, the nervous system interprets these states as signs that the environment is safe. The sympathetic system deactivates, and the parasympathetic system engages. He often refers to elevated emotions as essential for shifting the internal chemistry of the body. Emotions such as gratitude and love are not just pleasant feelings. They are biological signals that alter the expression of genes, hormones, and neurotransmitters. For example, oxytocin, which is elevated in states of love and connection, counters the effects of stress hormones and promotes healing. When practiced regularly, these emotional states help the body unlearn its association with danger, reconditioning it to expect peace instead of threat. It may seem unnatural to cultivate positive emotions without anything causing them. However, it is something that can be learned, and Dispenza has several techniques for it. This begins by mentally rehearsing a desired future and embodying the emotional state that future would bring, such as joy, love, or gratitude, as if it's happening now. The brain and body respond to these imagined experiences as though they are real, allowing you to install new emotional patterns. This process requires emotional engagement, not just positive thinking. The heart and mind must be in sync. Here, meditation is key. It helps you disconnect from familiar emotions tied to the past and instead practice feeling elevated emotions deliberately and consistently. Through repetition, your nervous system learns to recognize these emotions as familiar, even without any outside cause. There are some more esoteric ideas in Dispenza's works on this that we will get into a little bit, as this will help further this understanding for those who are ready to look past the five-sense reality. He often speaks about entering the meditative state of no body, no one, no thing, nowhere, in no time, as a way to break free from the limitations of the self and, importantly, from the linear model of cause and effect. In this state, the identity tied to the body, environment, and familiar emotions mentioned a moment ago dissolves. According to Dispenza, it is only when we stop identifying with our physical body, our personal history, and our current environment that we can enter the quantum field, the realm of infinite potential. This is the space beyond time and space where true change can occur. It's a shift from living as a reaction to the external world to creating from within. In Dispenza's framework, when someone meditates to the point of becoming no body and no one, their brain and nervous system begin to disengage from their familiar conditioning. The longer they remain in this timeless, spaceless state, the more deeply they signal to their biology that the past is over. And in doing so, they open the door to genuine emotional freedom, where joy, love, or peace are no longer reactions, but choices created independent of any external reason. A key point to understand here is that the five-sense reality is not all there is, and it's important to understand it not just on the intellectual level, but as an integrated, lived experience. The more you manage to cultivate inner stillness, the more you will experience that you are part of this infinite field of awareness, and here you have a natural source of stillness and joy. Here you can also start to truly experience the fact that whatever is happening in the external environment, on the deepest level, you are always safe. More specifically, the body and brain may encounter turmoil, but your essence, which lies beyond this physical reality, is always safe, no matter what happens. This is not philosophical speculation, but a fact that you can begin to anchor in the more you manage to live from this understanding. Again, no matter what happens in the external reality, your true self is immortal and forever part of this infinite, blissful, living, intelligent field. Another important point Dispenza makes is the role of intention. Intention gives the nervous system a direction. Without intention, the mind easily defaults to habits rooted in fear and survival. By mentally rehearsing a new way of being, including how one wants to feel and how one wants the body to respond, the brain and nervous system begin to build new networks and associations. Visualization, when combined with emotion, is not just a mental exercise. It becomes a biological signal that the body starts to respond to. Over time, this rewires the nervous system away from stress as the default setting. Dispenza also emphasizes the importance of coherence between the brain and the heart. Heart coherence refers to a balanced, harmonious rhythm of the heart, which has been shown to influence emotional stability and cognitive function. When the heart and brain are in coherence, the nervous system is more resilient. It can return to baseline after stress more quickly. This means that calming the nervous system is not just about turning off stress, but building a new baseline where calm is normal, not exceptional. In fact, when you are present and feel into your heart, You will feel how something shifts inside when you get this right. You should begin feeling a tingling sensation inside your heart, followed by a subtle feeling of groundedness. In his methodology, calming the nervous system is not a one-time fix, but a daily practice of shifting awareness, regulating emotional states, and training the body to trust in safety and balance. This includes recognizing the addictive nature of survival emotions. But just by beginning this practice, you rise above the level that most people operate from. Now, according to Dispenza, we can become addicted to negative emotions because the body starts to crave the chemical signals those emotions produce. Emotions like anger, fear, and sadness release stress hormones, such as cortisol and adrenaline. When experienced repeatedly, these chemical states become familiar, even comforting, at a biological level. Over time, the body begins to expect them and even triggers thoughts that will recreate them, simply to maintain its emotional balance. This means we aren't just feeling our emotions, we are physically dependent on them. The body influences the mind to think in ways that match those chemical needs. It's a feedback loop. Emotions create thoughts, which reinforce the same emotions. Breaking this cycle requires becoming conscious of these patterns and interrupting them before they become automatic again. We must then observe them without judgment and practice feeding different internal states in the ways mentioned a moment ago. Breathwork also plays a central role in Dispenza's approach. Slow, deep breathing, especially when directed toward the heart center, signals to the nervous system that there is no threat. It activates the parasympathetic branch and regulates the heart rhythm. Breath becomes a tool for shifting state, not by escaping thoughts, but by staying present with them and allowing the body to feel safe anyway. This builds emotional resilience and allows the nervous system to adapt more quickly to change. One of the most significant insights from Dispenza's work is that calm is not created through avoidance or denial. It comes from becoming conscious of how we are feeling and deliberately choosing another path. The nervous system does not need perfection, it needs consistency. A few minutes of daily practice, when done with sincerity and emotional engagement, can shift long-standing patterns. The more often a person enters a state of internal safety and presence, the more the nervous system will adjust its default mode. Over time, calm becomes familiar, and stress becomes the exception rather than the norm. In summary, calming the nervous system, according to Joe Dispenza, is not about escaping life's challenges, but learning to shift your internal state regardless of them. Most people live in chronic fight or flight because their body has memorized stress and keeps recreating it. Through practices like meditation, breathwork, heart coherence, and emotional self-regulation, it's possible to retrain the nervous system to recognize safety and return to balance. This requires consistent effort, emotional engagement, and a willingness to step outside old patterns of reactivity. By generating elevated emotions from within, without needing external triggers, you begin to rewire your brain and body. Over time, calm becomes natural, creativity returns, and your perception of reality changes. The goal isn't perfection, but presence. From this place, you begin to live from intention rather than habit, and from creation rather than survival. This is not easy in the beginning, and it takes time to start seeing results, especially since we, for a long time, have been taught to keep all our focus on the external reality, and that we basically have very little control over what is going on the inside, while in reality, what we perceive with the five senses is only a fraction of the totality of what the soul is and can experience. It's important that you realize clearly that there is nothing wrong with you for struggling with this. This is not about placing another burden on your shoulders or giving you something to blame yourself over. It is about giving you the tools to build a more functional, conscious relationship with yourself and reality, and a life where you no longer have to be stuck in survival mode. A key insight to keep in mind is that our emotional states are not a direct consequence of external events. We can begin to have a more conscious relationship with ourselves, where we question our knee-jerk reactions to the situations we find ourselves in, instead of confusing them with objective representations of said situations. It's not as easy as putting on rose-colored glasses to turn something bad into something good, but we can look for silver linings, and as we train our minds not to go into disaster mode and automatically think up the worst-case scenarios, as soon as something that we label as bad happens, we start to calm down a little bit. And from there, together with the techniques discussed in the video, we can build. In this, it's important to observe yourself. Become acquainted with your thoughts. Most people are not more than semi-conscious of what they think, feel, do, or say. And just by shedding more light on this, you are taking a powerful step toward having a more intentional relationship with yourself and your reality, as mere awareness begins to change your neurology. Finally, Dispenza suggests that when we train the body to stay in balance regardless of external conditions, we gain access to greater creativity, intuition, and self-regulation. The nervous system, once freed from the constant noise of survival, becomes a conduit for insight and clarity. Healing becomes possible not because of magical thinking, but because the biology of stress is no longer in control. The body begins to mirror the mind, and when the mind is calm, the body follows. In the video, we touch upon the blocked emotional energy inside the body. This energy is very much connected to the stressed state that most people live under to a different degree throughout their days. The mechanism is quite simple. The emotions get stored in the body until a new event, memory, or train of thought triggers them again. When this happens, unless we manage to remain aware enough to notice what is going on, we fall into reactive, automatic patterns of thinking, speaking, and acting, which in turn adds more fuel to the negative emotions. And since we respond the same way we always have, we continue to create the same type of experiences over and over again. However, we can also consciously activate these emotions to release them. If you want to delve deeper into how to do this, we have a video based on the teachings of David R. Hawkins that will help with it. We also have videos which delves deeper into the connection between relaxing the nervous system and intentional living, as well as one that focuses on Joe Dispenza's findings on heart-brain coherence. You can see them on the end screen right now, and you are invited to check them out if this video sparked your interest. You've now reached the end of the video. Remember to like and subscribe. Thank you for your time.